Today on Words and Numbers, an American war zone.
What's up with the price of gold?
Bad Bunny?
And Bari Weiss takes the helm at CBS News.
All this and more coming up on Words and Numbers, a CiVL original production. Check us out at CiVL.com.
Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Anthony.
And this is Words and Numbers.
Ant, what's new and exciting in your world this week?
Well, I kind of went down a rabbit hole recently.
You went down a rabbit hole every day of your life. Who are you kidding?
Somebody wrote me and said, hey, did you notice the price of gold crossed the $4,000 an ounce mark for the first time?
Yeah.
And that led me to looking up not just the price of gold, but the inflation-adjusted price of gold. And it is the data that I have go back to 1915. It's an all-time high. Adjusted for inflation, the next highest high was January of 1980, when it was, in today's terms, just shy of $2,800 an ounce. You might remember, I think it peaked at the time, it was in nominal dollars, it was like 800. So that's the equivalent of 2,800 a day. Yeah, but $4,000 today.
Yeah, silver's been out on a bender as well.
Oh, has it? I haven't watched silver.
They tend to go in lockstep.
There's interesting stuff going on in the economy that we might devote a whole episode to, because I have some thoughts on it. But the interesting part is this dichotomy of, on the one hand, the economy's kind of tepid. You know, yeah, we're not in recession, but economic growth isn't great. And unemployment is lower than it has been in recent history, but it's going up. Inflation is quote unquote under control, but it's still not back to where it was prior to COVID. So everything on the economic side looks kind of tepid, nothing to write home about. But on the financial side, it's like a different planet. The NASDAQ is up 25% year over year, 18% year to date. And I wanted to say that so that I could explain to the listeners the difference. If
everybody knows the difference. Move on. No,
they may not know. Year over year is NASDAQ today versus this same time last year. Year to date, of course, is NASDAQ today versus January 1st. Year over year becomes important in a lot of these measures because you get seasonal fluctuations. So just because something is up versus 6 months ago, is it because the economy is better, or is it because it's just what happens in the summertime? So you look at year over year. But NASDAQ, 25% year over year. S&P 500, 17% year over year. Gold, of course, has hit its all-time high. Oh, IPOs. We are on a streak. This is companies that are going public they're issuing stock on stock exchanges for the first time. IPOs, we are on track, James, for the third highest year for IPOs since 2001.
And don't forget Bitcoin, which is marching straight into the stratosphere.
I just saw that. Did Bitcoin cross something weird, like $140,000, $150,000 recently?
Well, not quite that high, but it's been going up and up and up.
Yeah, and so how do you explain, on the one hand, the financial markets just going gangbusters? I mean, like at levels that are .com era growth, while at the same time the economy is tepid. And I have hypotheses about this, but I want to point out something that's very interesting. On the economic side, there is tremendous uncertainty. If you look at the consumer sentiment index, it is at a near historic low, and it's just been tanking for a while now. Solidly, consumer sentiment index, anything over 100, consumers are believing that the economy is good and their prospects for the future are good. Anything below 100 is kind of recessionary. We're at 55, right? So solid. I mean, we're almost halfway to zero, which is as low as you can go. I submit that part of what's going on the consumer side, which is what largely drives the economy, is we have managed to stuff, and I'm not exaggerating here, we have stuffed a century's worth of economic upheaval into just the past 5 years. For example, we reenacted since 2020. We have reenacted the influenza epidemic of the 1920s, granted not without the death count, but certainly with the economic upheaval. Influenza epidemic of the 1920s, unemployment rates not seen since the Depression of the 1930s, tariffs not seen since the 1950s, double-digit inflation of the 1970s, interest rate hikes of the 1990s, housing price run-ups of the early 2000s, and the cryptomania of the 2010s. All of this, a century's worth of economic upheaval in the past 5 years. I think consumers are just, in a psychological sense, blown out of the water. They're all sitting on their hands, largely speaking, because they don't know what the lay of the economic landscape's going to be 5 years from now.
Well, nobody does, and nobody ever has. So there's
no,
that.
But at least you have some kind of idea of you're going to be between X and Y.
Well, when I see precious metals and Bitcoin spiking at the same time, that tells me that people generally are very nervous and they don't know what to do with their money. So they're finding places to park it that they think won't just disappear over the next few years.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and I think there's another thing at play here as well, which is the residual of all of that quote unquote money printing that the Fed did back in 2020. We haven't flushed that out of the system. And where's that money largely sitting? It's not sitting in goods markets for the reason you just said. People are loath to spend the money. It's sitting in financial markets, driving bubbles in virtually everything around.
Right. This is I hesitate to use the word, but it's a kind of inflation.
Yeah. We don't call it inflation, but it's the same kind of thing in the financial market.
I hesitate to use the word because it has an actual definition, but
Right.
This, if we're right, if our analysis is on point, this is actually government created.
Yes.
And I'll go you a step further because I keep seeing a recurring news story now that President Trump is considering sending out $2,000 checks to all Americans.
How interesting, because I had it on my list here to talk about and I forgot to mention it. I'm in Virginia, the state of Virginia I just got a check for $400. I said, what the heck is this?
But that's a rebate on taxes paid that they didn't spend.
That's what it is, but it's not a rebate like of my personal taxes. It's that the state had a surplus and just started cutting checks to everybody. Everybody got the same amount. It's $200 a person.
Trust me, the United States does not have a surplus. We're in no danger of having a surplus. We will never have a surplus.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump wants to send out $2,000 checks. Why? Because people love that sort of thing. What don't they like? The inflation that necessarily comes right behind it.
Right.
So that's where we are. It's tremendously uncertain, and that's all we can tell you. Good luck and God bless.
Get Words and Numbers on CiVL.com and on CiVL's TV and mobile apps. Regular episodes are free. Sign up for an annual subscription to support our show and for access to member-exclusive content.
I want to talk, Ant, about the lady who's become known as Ice Barbie, our Secretary of whatever she is.
I'm drawing a blank.
Kristi Noem, the name doesn't ring a distant bell to you?
No, tell me.
That seems odd. Didn't really? How can this be true? She is our Homeland Security Secretary.
Because I'm no longer an academic. I now have to pay attention to a small area of things over here.
Well, let me put it this way. Many people, not me exactly, but not me exactly, many people think she's really pretty, and she goes on raids with ICE agents as they go do various idiotic and or illegal things. And they're in Chicago now, and remember, Ant, that both Noem and President Trump have referred to Chicago as a war zone.
Right.
Things are so bad there that it's a war zone. And Kristi Noem has made a couple of complaints over the last few days. The first was that she wasn't allowed to use a bathroom in a federal building.
Why was she not allowed, and who's going to tell her no?
Well, whoever the guy was at the door, he said, "Get your ass out of here." Which, fine, but do you really worry about bathrooms in a war zone? Last I checked, soldiers in war zones did their business all kinds of horrible places. And the second thing she complained about, which I thought was even funnier, was that she can't get good lunch in Chicago because getting good lunch happens in a war zone too, or in her mind should. And the reason why she can't get a good lunch is because restaurant owners keep throwing her out of their restaurants. Well, what can you do? I think we're operating on a mistaken assumption of what a war zone actually is. You want to see a war zone, go to the Ukraine. And I just said the Ukraine, and I'm going to get all kinds of mail correcting me, so don't. I already know that it's Ukraine.
Okay, so I think it's worth mentioning this thing that you say frequently, that words matter. And
words
we
do
write
matter.
In our book, Cooperation and Coercion, we hit on this. We have a chapter, The War on Nouns. And to use the term war, and it seems like a simple thing. You say, well, everybody knows it's not really a war. Be careful. It puts a mindset in people's heads that all of a sudden it's okay to do certain things, like send soldiers into the city.
Yeah, that's right. And it's so easy, as a matter of fact, to do that Donald Trump watched a video from Portland when it was thoroughly out of control in 2020, and it was broadcast on the news, which means it was on Fox News, because that's the channel he watches, and saw it, and he said, "Oh my God, it's out of control there. Send the National Guard." Never realizing that was video from 5 years ago.
Oh my God, really?
Really. And a bunch of his followers now think that that's what happens in Portland every day, all the time, because they saw the video. It did happen. It happened in 2020. So there were a lot of things happening in 2020. I'll leave it to you to figure out what those things were.
My son lives out there, and apparently in Portland they have this thing every year, a naked bike run.
Oh, Jesus.
And they've decided to protest the soldiers there. They've advanced the date. So in protest, a bunch of scantily clad Portlanders are going to be riding up and down on bicycles.
I'm going to say this as a blanket statement. If you're outside, you need to have clothes on. The end. People need to cut this nonsense out. But, Aunt, this was not the foolishness of the week. Instead, something even dumber is the foolishness of the week. And for this, we have to talk about one of those things that you know literally nothing about.
Are we going to talk about sports? Okay.
The Super Bowl, as a matter of fact, yes.
Football.
The biggest, that's right, the biggest football, good for you, the biggest football game of the year, the most important one, the one to determine which American team are world champions. Because that's how we do things. We just, nobody else has a football team.
When it comes to football, do we say world champion with a straight face?
Of course we do.
How many other countries play American football?
None.
Okay.
And
so why don't we just say the solar system champions?
I would be in favor of that. That'd be fine by me. Milky Way. Let's go all the way on this.
Solar Bowl.
Hey, why not? But then aliens might come down and they might be 45 feet tall and 3,000 tons, and they beat us every time. But anyway, you know that the Super Bowl has a halftime show, correct?
Right.
That's the part where you start watching.
No, actually, I hate
you watch
say
the
this
commercials.
aloud.
You watch
Yes.
the commercials. Yeah.
Yeah.
People
The
like
commercials
you
are
drive me
superb.
nuts. The commercials are when you go to the bathroom and get more potato chips. But anyway, look, the NFL is trying very hard to expand across national borders. So they're having games in London. They had a game in Ireland this year. They're in South America. They're in Mexico, I believe it was. Maybe it was further down, well south of the American border at any rate, right? So they are trying to break out, and the Super Bowl halftime show is a way to attract non-fans to the game, right? It's not about anything other than that. The NFL sits back and says, how many people who don't care about football at all can we get with this person? or this one or this one. And this is why the Super Bowl halftime show is always incredibly confusing to most football fans. The last 3 or 4 I've watched and I've thought, what the hell is this? It's just incomprehensible. I don't think we've had a truly great Super Bowl halftime show since Prince did it. But, you know, if you were running the NFL, wouldn't you think, hey, that Prince fella, the kids like him. The kids who don't watch football like him.
Right.
Maybe we can get them to watch the game, if only for the halftime show. So they're always thinking this way. And this year they have chosen a very strange man who goes by the name of Bad Bunny. Now, Bad Bunny, I wish I knew his real name. It would make this so less ridiculous. But anyway, Bad Bunny just decided not to have, well, I mean, look, it's asinine to call yourself Bad Bunny. Right? It's just stupid.
We just like hearing you say it. That's a funny thing.
Yeah, this used to mean something else in the 1970s. I'll just leave it at that. He didn't do a tour of the United States this year, even though he's apparently the biggest pop star going since Taylor Swift, because he was worried about what ICE would do to his audience, that they might show up at his concerts, because he does a lot of his thing in Spanish, and that might attract attention, and he didn't want any part of it. Turns out he's Puerto Rican, right? Which makes him an American citizen. Mm-hmm. So, you know, all the people who got up on the rooftops when he was announced and said, he shouldn't be allowed to do it. We got to have an American do it. Well, okay, but we do. He is an American. You don't have to like his performance to admit that he's an American citizen. These are two completely different things, and you could address them separately. But here's the thing. Donald Trump came out and said, it's absolutely ridiculous that he was chosen. Now, how on earth would the commander-in-chief know that? Is it ridiculous? Well, it depends on why you chose him. Am I looking forward to Mr. Bunny's performance? I most certainly am not. I'll probably go out and grill something when that's happening, because I live in Tucson and it's going to be 68 degrees outside on Super Bowl Sunday here. You don't have to watch if you don't like it. But the Speaker of the House, that's where the action is. The Speaker of the House, Mr. Johnson, said that this is a terrible decision for the Super Bowl, but he offered a positive solution. Do you have any idea what the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, thinks would be a perfectly good, acceptable thing for the halftime show of the Super Bowl?
Tell me.
Lee Greenwood, the 80-year-old guy who comes out at every Trump event and sings, "I'm proud to be an American."
Really?
That guy sucks.
Yeah, well, first off, he's not going to attract, he'll attract some people. But
no, those people are already watching the game.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, yeah, I'll buy that. But I mean, what goes, I'm just trying to picture, what do? Do you just put him in the middle of the field and give him a microphone? I mean, I can't imagine like fireworks and all that kind of thing going on. Or choreography, for God's sake.
You mean a Lee Greenwood extravaganza? No, that's not going to happen. He'd fall down and break a hip. He's literally 82 years old. I mean, for God's sake, what are you thinking? Bring back ZZ Top if that's going to be how you want to go. But look, these people are marketers. They have an objective. They have a thing they need to accomplish. Is Lee Greenwood going to do that? No. But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has an objective that needs to be accomplished too. And mouthing off and bringing up President Trump's absolute favorite guy in the world accomplishes that objective. It gets his lips puckered up and placed on the presidential behind without any trouble, which makes both him and the president apparently happier than they were before. So
not so much the football fans.
No, we're all just disgusted by this. I mean, look, I would like it to be an American performer. I think the Super Bowl is an essentially American thing. So I want it to be an American. I'm relatively agnostic as to the form of music. I would like it to be Americana, right? So somebody in the Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty range, But
Right,
that's not
right.
going to bring new people to the thing. And I get that. So, you want to have the most popular guy right now. And they think that's going to be Bad Bunny, and they've already signed him up.
I have to ask, has it not occurred to anybody that maybe the sport's just boring? I mean, if you have to have big name performers to bring fans in, is there not something fundamentally wrong with the product that you're pushing?
And I don't know how to tell you this, but that is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And you should stop talking about that right now. And let's just move on, because we kind of had two foolishnesses of the week already, and we're about to have a third, because we're kind of talking about journalism and the culture war today. And unless you've been living under a rock for a while, you'll know that Bari Weiss has been made the editor-in-chief of CBS News.
And Bari Weiss is or was, I guess, the founder of Free Press. Is that right?
Yeah, she worked for. She had articles in. I don't want to overstate it. She wasn't a regular columnist, but she wrote pretty consistently for the New York Times. Wore out her welcome there, given political differences. Went on to form the Free Press. Did quite well with that, and then kind of capitalized on it. Right? It's the right moment in time. People at CBS. Long the third network of the three in terms of news, right? Their news department, for lack of a better word, sucks, and it sucked for a long time. So,
long time meaning decades.
Decades. And the people at CBS thought, quite reasonably, maybe we need to really shake things up here. Maybe if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same result, and that would be bad. So let's do a different thing and get a different result. And enter Bari Weiss. And I think it's fair to say that she's in charge of CBS News at this point, although, as we'll get to later, some of the people who work at CBS News are confused on that point. But Weiss, being, I think, a perfectly rational, level-headed woman, showed up and sent a letter out to everybody, her new colleagues, and said, I've got these points, and this is what we're going to do from now on. And you know what, Ant? If you're in charge, you get to decide that sort of thing. And then you get to sink or swim by the merits of that thing.
And it's not simply things we're going to do, like we're going to cover more of this or less of that. These are 10 principles of journalism.
Yeah. Well, for lack of a better word, I think it's safe to say these are in the neighborhood of principles. Mm-hmm. And some of them clearly are, others you could debate about. But we're going to go through them, numbers 1 through 10, just so you can hear what she said.
How crazy she is, right.
Before you hear what a nut job she is. Because I'm frankly not seeing nut job in what I'm reading in the letter that she sent out. But if you out there think that Ant and I might be crazy ourselves, feel free to tell us exactly how. Nothing about football to Ant. Number 1, we want journalism that reports on the world as it actually is. Doesn't every journalist want to report on the world as it actually is?
Right, I thought that was the definition of news.
No, but wait a minute. I used to see Don Lemon on CNN lying about things all the time. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I see all kinds of so-called journalists lying about things all the time. And I've seen journalists on CBS lying about things. And
not just lying, but her principle is report on the world as it actually is. Journalists nowadays aren't reporting. They're telling me how I should think about the world.
Well, there's an interesting thing here, because I remember back when I was taking public opinion polls very seriously when I was at UConn. They have the Roper Center for Public Opinion Research, and I was in and out of that place for a few years. Journalists, when asked, what do you want to do with your life? The most common answer was change the world. The The most common answer, the only answer, should have been report on the news.
Yes, right.
And that's what we're getting to here. Bari Weiss is saying we're going to have journalism that reports on the news as it actually is. Not as you wish it were, not as I wish it were, but as it is. And if you want news, that's exactly what you should have. I want to sit down every night, frankly, Ant, and have a source that I can turn on in the evening, from 6 to 8 in that period of time. Typically 6 and 6:30 are local, but 7 is somewhat more national. I would love a news source that I could watch and generally trust. Not trust all the time, not believe right down to the marrow, but that I could just generally trust.
I began as a news junkie when I was in junior high school, that far back. And I can tell you the last reporter who I felt was reporting the world as it is Walter Cronkite. And that was,
and look,
he went off the air in what, 78, 79, something?
Long time ago. And Walter Cronkite, let's not romanticize things. He was a reliable man of the soft left. Right? He just was. His voice got into the news. And I understand. And I know that that's always going to happen to some degree or another. With him, it really became clear in the Vietnam War, right? You knew Walter Cronkite was against that war, and he wasn't helping you be for it. Nonetheless, he was relatively objective, and he did a pretty good job. Way better than anything we've got now. And it's idiotic to say that you're going to go to Fox or MSNBC to get your news. They're not presenting the news. They're presenting rage bait.
Right, you're getting the opposite side of the extreme, but you're getting the extreme.
And even CNN, which used to be pretty good by my estimation, never great, but pretty good.
Right.
And I would call it that probably back in the very early 90s, first Gulf War era. They did an admirable job of presenting the news. Not anymore. Right, I know they're messing with me when I turn on CNN. I literally have not one great news source to turn to. At night, I've been defaulting for years to NBC for the evening news. Lester Holt did a pretty good job. He's now gone. Bari Weiss seems to be saying, hey, guys, the truth matters. Get your personal crap out of here. Just give us the facts. But then she also says she wants journalism that is fair, fearless, and factual. I want that too. I want journalists doing honest work. I don't want them taking talking points from the administration or from some clown in Congress. I want them doing investigative journalism. Find out what the hell's going on, and don't worry about it. You're protected by the First Amendment in so doing.
Right, and follow up with her next journalism that respects our audience enough to tell the truth plainly. Wherever it leads.
It's the same kind of thing when you think it right through.
And this these first three, reporting the world as it actually is, news that's fair, fearless, factual, respects our audience enough to tell the truth plainly. These are three things that when I over the years have talked to people on both the left and the right, and we've talked about problems with media, everybody says, yeah, why can't the media be like this?
Yeah. So it turns out she's not crazy so far. Maybe we'll find the lunacy in numbers 4, 5, and 6. 4, journalism that makes sense of a noisy, confusing world. 5, journalism that explains things clearly without pretension or jargon. 6, I think I just found the crazy one. Journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny. I sense that I know where the internal pushback is going to come from. The vast majority of reporters in the United States simply, and the vast majority of CBS News employees are on the political left.
I think the journalism world is only exceeded in their extremism of their political leanings by academia.
Academia, which leans so far left, it tilted right over. So, yeah. So this idea that you might hold Democrats to some level of scrutiny seems ridiculous to a number of journalists. And look, the Fox News people have that same disease. There's just far fewer of them. And it came pretty clear when various allegations would come out about Bill Clinton, and they say, well, we have to rally around him. He's our guy. Would he have been your guy if he had done all the same things and he was a Republican? No,
Right.
you would have been out there with pitchforks. So having equal standards for a news department is so important that I can't believe anybody has to say it out loud. So maybe it is number 6. But then again, number 6 shares something with number 7, doesn't it? Journalism that embraces a wide spectrum of views and voices so that the audience can contend with the best arguments on all sides of the debate.
And it's easy to see how this one would be crazy if your going in position is that the other side doesn't have a good argument.
Yeah, that you're right and nobody else has a point.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And that's precisely what most people in the media believe. They're right and nobody else even has a point. I like number 8 in a lot of ways, most of all. Journalism that rushes toward the most interesting and important stories, regardless of their unpopularity. Wouldn't that be something? If we got to hear what was actually going on from a bunch of fearless journalists.
Yeah. For example, I think history is going to look back aghast that the media let Joe Biden, in effect, be mentally incompetent, remain as president while mentally incompetent. No, because nobody was asking the right questions.
Well, nobody
It
had
was not popular.
Well, they weren't interested because that was their guy.
Yeah.
And they had to do anything to keep him in that office, lest Donald Trump win it back. Well, I would submit that those are personal political views, and they shouldn't color your reporting at all. I mean, there's one guy, Jake Tapper, wrote a book about this nonsense, and nobody ever asks him, well, why didn't you tell us until you wrote your book that the president was demented? Clearly you knew. You know, what the hell? At some point, when are these people accountable? And Bari Weiss seems to be saying, how about right now? How about right now? And I, as an American, am thrilled. I don't know what it's going to look like, but so far, I'm with her on literally every single point. Number 9, journalism that uses all the tools of the digital era. All right. That doesn't seem to be a thing at all.
Yeah, I don't know what tools journalism isn't using.
Yeah, nor I. And then journalism that understands that the best way to serve America is to endeavor to present. Yeah, that seems exactly right. I think it was really a list of 9 that she wanted a 10th for, so number 9 got thrown in.
And let me underline 10 because I had to think about that for a moment, but I like it. Journalism understands the best way to serve America is to present. And I would add, as opposed to process.
Or proselytize, or,
Right.
There's any number of words that you could throw in there. But the news, broadly construed, hasn't been presenting much of anything except their own political views for decades.
And I think, James, it's more than that. This has been going on for so long that we no longer recognize that the stuff that's presented as news is really opinion. The opinion pages used to be separate. That's where you got opinion. Now the entire thing is opinion.
It does seem that that's what it's become. And it's a sad thing.
Words and Numbers is part of the CiVL network. CiVL is a streaming platform dedicated to upgrading civilization. At CiVL, we believe that societies flourish when they honor civic equality and cooperation. By creating space for honest disagreement among people of goodwill, CiVL offers a refreshing alternative to divisive punditry and insular echo chambers. Words and Numbers is freely available, but for exclusive content, including live discussions with us, subscribe to CiVL by visiting civil.com. That's CiVL.com. CBSEmployeeReactions.com. Use the code words and numbers, that's one word, for a discount on an annual subscription.
So let's turn to CBS employees and their actual reaction to Bari Weiss's letter and Bari Weiss's presence, because they've kind of gone on the record, although most of them have shared their thoughts anonymously, because reporters are courageous people and they're willing to stand up for principle when it really matters the most.
Tell the truth plainly wherever it leads.
Yeah, wherever it leads, as long as I don't get in trouble for it in any way. What the F word is the first one? Anonymous CBS source. A throwing up emoji is not enough of a reflection of the feelings in here. Anonymous CBS staffer. People are using words like depressing and doomsday. Feels like some sort of doomsday. Anonymous reporter.
Good God.
I think the massive impending massive layoffs that are coming in a couple of weeks have everyone just kind of freaking out, literally freaking out. Anonymous CBS journalist. Are you noticing a pattern here, Aunt? We don't know what the hell her job is going to be. I mean, editor-in-chief. What does that even mean? It makes no sense. Where does she fit in the hierarchy? Anonymous CBS source.
Right. Time out. Editor-in-chief is
it seems pretty
long. That title's been around forever. What do you mean you don't know? That's the guy in charge.
Well, Aunt, don't be a sexist. It's the lady in charge. Of course, do I know she's a woman? Yes, I do, actually. Shut up. Anyway, I don't think a lot of the stuff that's on Bari Weiss's Free Press would pass our standards. It's offensive that someone's being hired who has zero experience in television. There are people at CBS who have dedicated their entire careers to understanding and developing the skills that are needed. Anonymous CBS source. Yeah, they've dedicated decades of their lives so well that CBS is the last place network news channel. It's just like anybody that you think isn't qualified for the job that comes in. There's going to be trepidation, right? Whether it's Bari Weiss or, Michael Scott from The Office, anonymous CBS correspondent. Here's an idiot from Salon.com who thinks that we should look to Dan Rather as a paragon of truthful news virtue. Dan
that's
Rather,
where the whole thing started going downhill.
Dan Rather was a filthy liar on television. Got fired for it, but I digress. 2 decades after Dan Rather warned that corporate control would erode journalism, CBS News may be proving him right. Under new owner Larry Ellison, the network has named Bari Weiss, founder of the Free Press, as its new editor-in-chief, raising fears of political interference and layoffs.
Good Lord. Now, here's what I would love to see. Put those 10 principles out there and and invite Americans to vote. Yes, no. Do you agree with this? And watch 99% of Americans say, yes, that's exactly what we want.
They would if you didn't tell them where it came from. If you told them where it came from, only half of them would agree.
Right.
Probably 30%, actually. But that's an argument for another day.
Therein lies a fascinating example. If any students are listening and you need and some project for one of your classes, do this. Take these 10 principles and put them under the Fox News banner.
That's right.
And go around your campus asking students, do you think, here's these principles Fox is going to adopt. What do you think? And then put it under the MSNBC banner and do the same thing.
I used to give a lecture quite often, actually, that I would have Donald Trump on the big screen behind me, and I'd say, I want you to look at all these things. And I would go through item after item after item that, from where I stood, were crazy-ass ideas that nobody should have ever even thought about.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, how many of you think these are good ideas? And roughly half the hands would go up. And then I'd put Barack Obama up, and I'd do the exact same thing. And the other half, their hands would go up. And I would say, I lied to you. They were all switched. Trump did all the Obama ones, and Obama did all the Trump ones. What do you think now? And everybody was just mad at me. They never thought anything, right? They were just mad at me.
They're mad at you.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I was not to be tolerated after I pulled that kind of crap with them. I mean, here's another one for you. In case it wasn't clear, the anti-DEI crusade has never been about merit. Zero news experience, never been a reporter. Elevated to editor-in-chief of CBS News, one of the most storied news institutions in the nation. That was by noted imbecile and race hustler Hannah Nicole Jones of the 1619 Project fame, a book that our friend Phil Magnus has debunked from one end to the other, and that I've done a little bit of debunking onto. And I can tell you, if you knew what I knew about Hannah Nicole Jones, you wouldn't listen to her for a minute of your life. She is a liar to her core. And okay, these are all the things that we're saying. And I didn't even cherry pick these. I just read from the top to the bottom. And I certainly didn't read all of them. There's a whole bunch more. But you get the sense of what they're all saying.
Did you encounter any positive comments?
No, but I didn't look for them either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure they're as partisan as the negative comments. I want to see how she's going to do. Because Here's the thing. The Free Press, she actually built it from scratch. It's an impressive operation that she built. Well, why wouldn't that put her in a position to know something about building out a news organization? Maybe I want somebody who's gotten her hands dirty instead of somebody who's been an effete snob for the last 30 years. Let's see what she can do. She can't do much worse. Can she do worse? Sure. Is it likely to be worse? No, it's really not. CBS is a laughing stock.
Which is a shame because, again, back in the late 70s under Cronkite, it was hands down the number one news organization in the world.
It was the gold standard. And again, I'm not saying it was perfect. I'm just saying it was pretty damn good. So good that it was the gold standard. Quick, tell me who the evening anchormen were on NBC and ABC during the same time period.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's right. You can't do it. Which tells you all you need to know about what America thought of Walter Cronkite. Mm-hmm. Now, look, the news world has changed. It's splintered. There are many, many more outlets now than we could have even imagined then, even with all the newspapers that existed then. Hell, even what we're doing right now counts in a way as news analysis. So, it's a different world. The landscape has changed. You can't put that genie back in the bottle, and you probably don't want to even if you could. So, here we are. I'm actually interested to see how it all works out. I don't know any other way to put it. And I think it's largely because I feel so disrespected as a human being and as a viewer by the people who have tried to sell me the news for the last 30-ish years that, hell, man, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And, God bless them. Let's give this a shot. And you know what? Maybe this will move ABC, which doesn't have a particularly wonderful news operation either. Maybe this will move them to do something. And then maybe NBC will react to the moves in the market.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I hope she doesn't encounter an insurmountable wall of resistance. I'm picturing, for example, the few cases I know of in what I consider the analogous industry, higher education, where you get a president in there who's going to do the same kinds of things that she's doing and just cannot overcome the inertia.
Well, these people don't have tenure, right? These people,
that's a big plus.
They can all be fired. President Trump used to say things like, "I'm going to drain the swamp." Come to find out, he probably can't. Right? Mm-hmm. It's either can't or won't, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Right? The bureaucratic state has become a monster. You can't just waltz in and undo that. You can't waltz into a university and undo what that's become. But I think you can.
And when you say
into a,
and when you say can't, you don't mean shouldn't. You mean actually cannot do it.
I mean it's literally impossible to have that outcome. But I don't think it's literally impossible for it to happen here. I think you can walk into a news organization as editor-in-chief with the support of the principal owner, and just do it.
Clean house, yeah.
Clean house, go ahead. And, hey, Bari, if you're out there, give us a call.
Boy, that'd be fun.
We'll come over. We'll take a look. I'm not saying that we'll go work for you, but I'd like to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, I tell you, the principles are impressive.
They are impressive, and I think in our way we do our best to live up to them. Right?
Yeah. Now, granted, we're not news; we're opinion.
That's right, and we make no bones about it, and we often tell you what the reasonable counter-opinion is, and that's the better approach. I've been doing this new thing on Twitter, though, because I come across people who are obviously lying. I mean, obviously lying. And I click into their accounts, and I see 800,000 followers, 1.4 million followers. And I call it the ex-idiocy of the day. And I just say, he's got $1.4 million, but he didn't have 3 seconds to do a quick fact check. How many followers do I have? Not 1.4 million. We are a boutique taste. I would like it to be a bigger boutique, but serving the truth doesn't win you immediate praise. It does win you long-term respect. And that really should be what people are thinking about the most. Respect is earned over time. It's not just given. And when it is earned, it's fragile and it has to be maintained. And here we are. I hope to God this is a first step down that happy road. And if it's not, I hope something else is really, really soon. We often say, Aunt, you and me, that the market will correct over time. And we might be seeing a market correction here. I hope we are.
And to our listeners who always ask us, so what should I do? Go subscribe to CBS News.
Well, keep an eye on it. Give it a chance. Right? The employees aren't giving it a chance. At least it's likely not a perfectly representative sample, of course. But, the hostility is seething right now. Well, okay, let's see where it goes. Let's see what she can build. I'm sure her first impulse will be to gain some kind of consensus. And if and when that doesn't happen, it'll be to trim out the malcontents. And what will doubtlessly remain is something that she can work with, which is what everybody wants, right? Something you can work with. I am happy to give her some time to figure it out. And I'm going to be watching as a very, very interested observer. Yeah. Until next week. Next time, I should say. Why do I keep saying next week? Until next time, remember to be nice to each other, not like these CBS News people are being to Bari Weiss, but, like honest people can be with each other when they bump into each other in the real world. And we'll see you real soon.
See you next time, James.
Take it easy, Aunt.
Words and Numbers is a CiVL original podcast. Words and Numbers and CiVL work together to advance a shared mission of upgrading civilization. We believe the most pressing issues we face arise from coercive institutions that bring out our worst, and that the key to building a better society lies in voluntary institutions. To learn more about us, explore CiVL's new platform at civil.com. That's CiVL.com.